There are so many meetings this week.
Oh, God, it's been at least one.
All right, thank you guys for coming today. We have a smaller group, but the working group is about 10, I think about 15 people. So, you know, great to have snow and rain, but also can be a bummer. So, welcome today. I'm going to turn it over to Kelly. He's our new cannabis program manager. Just give a few comments, open us up, and then we'll get started.
Wonderful. I'm turning my phone off. I'm not playing that. So I'm kind of, I think Carmel usually, or has traditionally, kind of been the person to say hello and such. She's, I think, actually taken a few hours off to do something nice for herself this afternoon. So I'm brand new in the job, about 48 or 72 hours or such. And I don't want to talk a lot about me. I'll come back if possible. I'll tell you a little bit why I'm here and how I can help. But what I'd really like to do is, if it's not redundant for all of you, just kind of go around and if you could, at least for my sake, maybe everybody knows each other, but take a little bit of time and tell us or me who you are and why you're here and what you want and what makes you happy, or something like that.
Okay. Do you want to start from Sarah?
How about you?
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Ann Petrillo, and I run the nonprofit West Company, which is a business development center. Some of you might know if you're in Mendocino County. But I am here today with a different charge, and that is really to share with you some of my marketing and communications experience. Marketing communications is what I did for over 30 years in a variety of places, and I'm addressing that as it relates to the cannabis industry today, and we'll share some ideas and thoughts with you about the ways that we can shape Mendocino County.
My name's Esther Koch, and I'm a friend of Mary Ann's, but I'm an interested party. I am a Mendocino County resident, but I also have a background in consumer products companies and retail from the CFO, CPA side, and I see some business. I've also been in a startup company, so I see some strategic business opportunities here. Also, just to I recently attended the International Cannabis Business Conference in San Francisco, so I also got some handouts to share, if of interest at appropriate time, about the sophistication that already exists in this marketplace.
And Esther's here on my invitation because of the
Hey.
Hi, so I'm Patrick Sellers. Interim Chapter Director for the Mendocino County Growers Alliance, as well as I have a consulting business. We've been helping people through the permitting process here in the county, as well as with their business development and marketing. Over the last year, we've I think it's about six farms that we've launched their brands and done their logos and brand development and gotten them into markets throughout the state. So I have some experience on the front lines so far in this new paradigm, so I can bring some of that to the table.
I'm Kimberly Delacorva, Tate, long name, call me Kim. I'm One Feather Ranch here in Mendocino, River Valley, between River Valley and Willits. My history, though, is design and marketing and production. I mean, it's in the entertainment industry, and I'm not doing that anymore. God. But this is my logo. I brought this in for someone else, but there's my logo. I love branding. I get passionate about marketing as long as the demographic and the intent is right. So I get really opinionated and weird, so just tell me to shut up. And what else? Remember, a huge supporter of Janine. I'm like fangirl of hers. and she knows that. And I'm just like, shut up. And I go to all his meetings. I go to too many meetings. And I think this should have started a year ago. And I hope I haven't bugged you too much now. Okay, good. But I'm really excited for what this group can do, and this is like my primary, I think this will affect everything else. Like going to the meeting last night, I'm like, everything we're talking about is really, really important, and it affects this and this, and it's like a big full circle, and I want to see what everyone's vision is for what they think it will be, what their idea of who they want to visit here, because I know I have my own, and hopefully we don't make some of the mistakes that I see that Napa Valley made. I mean, that sounds weird, but watching that over the years, I saw the mistakes and the good things that they did, and whatever. Okay, I'll talk.
All right, so I'm Karen Byers, and for the last 2 years, I've been working under the name Mendocino Cannabis Resource. And what we've been doing is offering educational workshops and conferences to help this rapidly developing cannabis in this world. And as the company knows, we're not able to do direct outreach to our people. We have industry terms, one's hands-on and one's hands-off. And so West Company can help people that are doing peripheral things for hands-off, but people that are actually working with the plant, they're not able to be able to work with their federal funds to help them. Though I know you're stepping up in any way you can, so I appreciate that. So so we've done everything from the 2-day conferences, which one day would be focused on the regulations, and the second day would be focused on cannabis business development. And I always use the word cannabis business, at least. Anyways, I might have to trademark that one. But like I said, for the last 2 years we've done that. This year we're only doing a 1-day conference. The morning session will be on the current state of regulations. This year the conference is going to be on 420. So the morning session will be on regulations, and then the afternoon session is we're working up a program to help the cannabis cultivator understand the chain of possession from sourcing to retail and everything in between, and how those different license types are interacting with each other. And then after Omar Figueroa's law firm is going to do that presentation, and then after that we're going to have people that already are licensed that have these different license types to talk about their business model, including Flo Kana and Ron Edwards with his nursery model and such. So it's going to be a great day. And then after that we're going to have a 420 celebration, and we're just going to celebrate in this moment where we're at ending cannabis prohibition. And it'll be a no sales event, so we'll just be celebrating and sharing and enjoying each other and building community. So I hope everybody will know they're invited, and many of you I'd like to talk about speaking as well. So what else? We had a cannabis. I think that one of the reason I want to be on this is because I think one of the things that really keep our community active will be the cannabis option. So I'm currently in dialogue with Black Oak Ranch, which is where the Hog Farm Picnic and Earth Dance have been, about doing 1-day farmers markets there. And I'd like to tie that in with cannatourism. And on, but that's it for now. We also held a job fair that was phenomenal. And I did registration through SurveyMonkey, so I was able to prove that we had about 400 people. We had 600 people show up, but we only had about 400 good registrations. And out of that, over 70% were zip codes from Mendocino County. So we're going to be able to bring those jobs into our community as other jobs are not going to be available. So on and on.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Penelope Andrews. Actually, it was at her job fair. It was probably one of the best things I went to for years. Of actually, right now here, this is actually nuts and bolts. It was a lot of work. Well done, Karen. But I was a filmmaker for many years, doing environmental stuff, mostly trying to save the old growth redwoods in Humboldt County, and also did a lot of work in Mendocino County trying to save old growth redwood, among many other social justice issues for the last 20 odd years. Been taking a break from filmmaking for 4 years, so I could finish my ex-hotel that I live in. I have a hotel, used to be a hotel in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s and 70s, kind of. And it's a cool place, but due to code issues, that the arbitrary choice of which zoning areas you could potentially have a farm or not, my place fell in a really weird place. So I got involved with the overlay committee because I'm like, hey, well, I better get involved then. And there hasn't been very many voices from the area because I live in South Leggett, and it's kind of the forgotten zone of Mendocino. But over the last 20 odd years, I've always trying to tell people about how beautiful, wonderful it actually is. It's a lot better than it used to be, and we have some really cool resources there now. Slowly, we're a Buddhist center. and a big international Buddhist center, just to let you know, that is actually got people from all over the world coming to it. And we already have people from all over the world coming to the drive-through tree. And it does sound like there wouldn't be that many people, but actually a lot of people. When you go down there, there's people from everywhere.
It's the last one in
I
California.
said, did you drive through the tree?
Oh yeah, I've done,
Yeah.
I always
No, I was asking
Last
Sarah.
one in
Have you been to the
California.
tree?
I am lucky to be, I'm American, but I'm also British, so I'm lucky to go travel quite, not as much as I'd like actually. I travel a bit, but I've most been in Mendocino for over 25 years, so I've lived all over the county, but mostly there. And so whenever I travel, I tell people about all the wonderful things about Mendocino, mostly the Mendocino coast, admittedly. And so I've always had an interest in promoting Mendocino. I love Mendocino, as I think, the only other place I like as much is Skye in Scotland. So anyway, I've done a lot of like promotional stuff forever, and filmmaking, and sort of not straight corporate marketing, or but I've done a lot of like say stuff that's actually made huge differences. I mean, we saved the old growth headwaters forest, and that was partly due to my collective for doing movies, and we have affected quite a lot of change. You've seen over the years.
She's put together quite the
Lots
documentary and
of
promotional materials.
Yeah, a lot of short films, and mostly short films have been used strategically for small issues.
If you ever saw the Luna film, she would have been the one that made it.
So our featured cannabis filmmaker to highlight
Yeah,
Mendocino County.
I'm actually also going to be honest here. I have one aim really, and then I feel I've done it, and then I might move to Skye in Scotland. But my cousin was in a band called the High Grade All Stars. They were an amazing, ahead of their time music, sort of hip hop, reggae. Sadly, my cousin was murdered. Some of the people in the county would know him. His name was Jamal Andrews. One of the few African American people in the community, and this was like 6 years ago. But anyway, their band was amazing, and some of the music in the album, it talks about the old school community of what the cannabis industry sort of came out of in this area.
It would be a good documenting type.
But
piece, yeah.
I've actually put together an ad in my head using snippets of it, and I've already got permission to
use their music? How
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah,
My cousin's genetics actually went to win the Emerald Cup with a famous breeder in this county. So it's
And some of this, I think, we'll discuss.
A little, yeah.
at the end.
yeah, I
little
just
later.
so basically,
So know who
I
you
have
are. That's very cool.
so I'm a filmmaker, but I'm also, live in a very remote area that's not really paid attention to. So I felt like I should sort of try to. I
Welcome.
really want to see the Canada tourism be done right, because if you want people to come here, they've got to feel comfortable, and that's like number one. So as somebody who travels around quite a bit and who loves Mendocino, I just thought maybe I'd be useful. I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
That's it. But I might not even be like 2 years from now.
Thank you. So my name's Janine Coleman, and I'm the director of the Mendocino Appellations Project. I also serve on the state board of the California Growers Association, and locally the executive committee of the Mendocino County Growers Alliance, which is our local CGA chapter. I'm on the board of directors for the Mendocino Cannabis Industry Association, which is largely focused on branding and marketing for Mendocino industry. And I'm on the board of directors for the 420 Archive, which is a nonprofit organization devoted to researching and archiving the history of cannabis prohibition. And so we're building an archive of oral histories. We're particularly focused on the elder demographic, the back to the land generation, and the Emerald Triangle. And we're also working on feasibility for a museum, which is really exciting.
Great.
Ooh, that's my short second.
I'm Janelle. I'm with the executive office, and I have no super stories like that. I'm really here because I'm interested in what you guys are doing. We've been talking about this for so many years that I couldn't. Sarah says, you got to come today and listen to this, because I've been attending the other meetings. And this is it. This is key. This is critical. And you guys being here, I can't tell you how much we appreciate it, because really it's you that are going to build this. Carmel couldn't be here, as Kelly had mentioned, but I just wanted to express to you how much she appreciates your involvement. Because without all of you here, this wouldn't happen. So I'm super excited that you're all here. can't wait to hear.
We're super excited about the working group model.
I'm glad, and it's important to hear that feedback too, because, it took a lot to get there.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
We've been working out kinks. We all know, admittedly, there's been kinks along the way, but bringing you guys here and hearing that is really good. It's really good because
It's
it makes it like, okay, so it is working if you think it's
Well,
working.
because for over 20 years, I've been asking the board of directors to come up with an advisory committee, and I'd always hear no, and then all of a sudden, they pulled out of their hat this working group model, and I'm like, we should actually go tell every other county to be doing this.
And that's,
Because it is so much better than any
You can
result
carry-
I've seen from a working group.
you
I mean,
carrying
an
that
advisory board.
message is much more important than us. I'm just saying, because, we can, and it's just more bureaucratic nonsense. Coming from you, it's true. Coming from you, it's actually
As a
proof
county model,
positive.
I would support and
It's
say
proof
works.
positive, and they'll
Yeah.
listen to you. They'll listen.
Okay, cool.
I'm Sarah DeCette. I'm with the executive office. Many of you guys have probably seen me a lot over the past couple years. I'm excited that this working group is starting. I think it has a lot of potential to see industry and county partnership of how we can support each other and market this county for business development and tourism with cannabis. So I'm excited to be here and welcome.
I'm Kelly Overton. I'm the cannabis manager for Mendocino County. Been about I think it's my third day or fourth day,
Okay.
4, 5 days. And I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to be in Mendocino. I fell in love with the area stopping on a drive a few years ago from Vancouver, BC to Joshua Tree. I stopped to look at trees and hike. And it literally dawned on me at some point I could live here if I wanted to. So most of my background is in nonprofit management initially with very large homeless shelters in New York City and Boston, or with animal projects. I've done a lot of work internationally, kind of putting in motion structures that answer complex problems. I worked in Bangkok, Thailand, developing a structure for kids that work in the sex industry to leave safely. And in Grenada and Managua, Nicaragua, putting in a structure of a program where street kids could go to school in the morning and take care of street animals in the afternoon and such. So I'm very lucky to have done a lot of interesting things. And working in the nonprofit field, you learn to do a whole bunch of different things and kind of have a wide skill set. My first job, what I'm doing mostly here, is I'm in an office over there with the guidance from Sarah and people that have been here, and we're trying to unclog the process of getting permits and such, which is just understandably, because this has never been done before, too complicated and catch-22 full and such. So we're modernizing that and making it go quicker. The last thing I'll say, I guess, when that's done, and it's done in the hopes that I truly believe Mendocino County should be the epicenter of successful, sustainable cannabis growth, use, business in the world. And we're working very hard, putting systems in place that will allow that to happen. So we want to be the blueprint county for how everything dealing with cannabis is done. That's our goals. And having the background I had and the whole big open field of cannabis, as far as planning and such, I had offers to go to many different places. I came here specifically because my interactions with the executive office, they seemed like they literally, you could do things, you could make progress, you could move in a sense that wasn't traditionally of some governments. So I'm thrilled to be here, and that's all we need to hear from me. I'm taking a bit of time.
Amazing. I'm Amy Verhey. Nice to meet you guys. I know Marianne well and will be doing one part of today's presentations. I live in San Francisco, but I work in marketing. I'm very passionate about it, like many of you have said, and also very passionate about the cannabis industry and the alternative health and medicine and wellness that it brings. So I'll share more about my story later, but very, very happy to be here today.
Welcome.
Thanks.
My name is Stuart Marcus. My wife and I own the resort retreat center, Eco Lodge, in the county for over 20 years. I'm a former chairman of the County Tourism Promotion and Economic Development. I was on the County Lodging Association Board of Directors for over 10 years. I previously hired a PR firm and worked with the CEOs I have a great deal of experience in tourism and marketing development for our county. And then we also got into cannabis when it started to go legal on our ranch. We have an ideal facility for that. I represent Mendocino County on the Redwood Empire Association for a number of years. I work with wine, lodging, and board supervisors, agritourism, ecotourism, nature tourism. I feel a calling to try both to help our own development, but also with the county, and feel uniquely experienced to help. When I was chairman of the county tourism board, it was falling apart. We were actually taken off of the budget. And I'm one of the founders of our county business improvement district for lodging, which pays for 2/3 of our current budget. And I belong to 3 work groups in this area, and I feel very motivated to help our community and to try to help make this happen. Thank you.
I'm Marvin Levin, or if you've heard of me by my stage name, Marv by the Way. I used to be the host and original partner of the Emerald Cup at Area 101, and I actually grew up with it because I wanted to keep it in the county as a local event and not bring it out and try to make it a giant thing and sell it out. So I am interested in trying to do some sort of local event again that would be more based on the Amsterdam model, where instead of 7 people deciding what was the best, 500 or 1,000 people could decide what was the best, and we could have events all around the county for a month with shuttles back and forth between them, getting those people in there and promoting all our legal farms. And making that a public thing that the people actually decided the ones who wanted to come here and spend some time in the winter when we don't have enough tourism going on. I also ran the Mendocino Farmers Collective, which was one of the first, it was actually a patient and grower run co-op, also at Area 101 before when the Obama administration crackdown happened, just trying the physical finances of running the collectives and the stress of it stopped me and put me in the, I would say exactly hiding. It wasn't that much hiding, but now I actually call my farm no longer Hiding Valley, and I've got a 10,000 square foot facility in Potter Valley that 3 days ago got the state permit approved.
Nice.
And, like I said, I'm no longer hiding, not as well as the community is no longer hiding, and anything I can do to get back helping and part of the community and promoting the community, I'm glad to be here helping.
Okay, thank you all. This is a great group. I mean, Amy and I didn't really know, we just saw your names on a piece of paper and didn't really know the backgrounds, and so it's wonderful that all of you really have either a passion behind marketing or understand branding or have experience with the positiveness of it and the need for it. So I'm glad that you're all here today, and I think this is going to be a great working group. A couple of things I want to say, and then I'm actually going to turn it over to Amy to get started. But first of all, I just want to level set everybody's expectations, right? This is not, today's meeting especially, we're not here to develop a product. We're not here to create a roadmap or even a communication strategy. What we wanted to do today was just start the conversation about why marketing, branding, this kind of outreach and awareness building of Mendocino County in relationship to the cannabis industry is so very important. We just want to get kind of those juices flowing with everybody to think about that. What we do hope you do from today's meeting is take some of this information back to your own constituents and some people that you're working with about what you like that's going on, and then when we come back together again in subsequent meetings, we can start to begin to build out a plan that really benefits everybody. But in today's presentation, and what we'll show you throughout the course of the next hour, is really some of the county's ideas about how they can position the county so that it makes everybody look really good, whoever is doing whatever they're doing in the county. So I just want to separate that. I'm not really talking about a specific farm or anything like that, but it's really what the county can do to brand itself. It's just like what they're doing in tourism, this is around cannabis. So like all of you, I mean, you were probably at the event last night. Amy and I sat with our little streaming TV to make sure that we saw all 3 hours. And as the first thing is I didn't promise her that I'd have broadband enough to watch it, but it worked. So we got to see 3 hours of streamed video of the event last night, and so it was very fascinating. We really got a lot out of it. There was a few things again with our little marketing beanies that we put on, you know, and there was many things that went on around policy, of course, and the challenges that everybody faces, you know, all over California as Prop 64 moves through. But the things that we took away for this conversation, 28 states have some form of cannabis regulation. 60% of the cannabis produced nationwide comes from Northern California. This is huge. Potentially, this is a $7 billion industry for California. And we have an opportunity right now to define this industry at a global level. The world, the eyes of the world are upon Mendocino. And I know that sounds a little melodramatic, because you know, here we all are, we live in Mendocino and this is our home. But seriously, I mean, you know, listening last night just confirmed a lot of what we've already been talking about, which is we have an opportunity. The world is going to be looking at us, at this county, what we're doing, how we're doing it, how professional we are, how we're getting this out to the broader world. And we have a chance to not only define that, but really to create an aura around what Mendocino County is. So I just want to keep that kind of in the back of our minds as we're thinking about branding and an identity and the stuff that Amy's going to share with you. And we'll come back. So the way we're going to do it, Amy's going to talk for a while about branding and marketing, and then we'll turn it over to Janine to talk a little bit about the Appalachian Project, and then I'll come back and talk to you about the Cal Origins site and what we're planning to do and launch with that. So with that, let me turn it over to Amy.
Awesome. I think that's the clicker. So yeah, I mean, to echo everything that Marianne just said, but also a lot of what we've just talked about in our backgrounds, you know, when we were talking about what's happening up here in Mendocino, and I have a background in marketing and enjoy it, I kind of just felt like I had to see what is out there and what's happening. I think we're at the crux of a lot of change over here. So I have a handful of slides to kind of walk you guys through. I also want this to be as open discussion. Marianne said we're going to have time later to discuss and have questions, but stop me at any point if you would like to discuss something more in depth.
I'm going to just keep an eye on the
Perfect, please. Tell me if I need to go fast enough. So really quick, just a little bit more about me. You know, I grew up in the Marin area, in the Bay Area, but I spent high school, college, and sometime after that in the Midwest. And a lot of my focus was on working with farmers in the Midwest to help kind of share their story and their heritage in a marketing landscape. So I work with Slow Food. For those of you that aren't familiar, it's an international movement that's very focused on farm to table. So in Wisconsin, we were focused on heritage pigs. Here, we're focused on cannabis. But it's the same kind of idea. You know, we looked at what was intrinsically natural to those farmers and just helped kind of uplift it and sort of broadcast it with the consumers, whether those were, you know, farmers markets to sell their product or consumers to buy the actual products. So from there, I ended up at Edelman, which is the largest privately held PR firm. We're global, and we have about 65 offices across the world. I specifically sit in a kind of consumer marketing space. My big clients are Netflix, Untitled Chocolate, you know, really a whole host of clients that are really just looking to brand themselves in a specific way. You know, Netflix is a leading streaming service, or just reach new audiences and kind of brand their message to who maybe is already eating Untitled Chocolate or who they want to go after. So those kind of two spaces, I focus in this overall perception of how brands want to reach consumers, stakeholders, customers, but then also help them take that one step further and reach new audiences. So, you know, how can Mendocino go outside of Mendocino, outside of California, outside of the US? I've been kind of doing this for about 8 years, and I think when Marianne and I were talking about today, it's a little bit more, you know, it's not at all of how can what's happening in Mendocino turn into some of these large corporate entities. It's more like, what are some of those tactics we've done in the corporate marketing space on large-scale global consumer, you know, that level, and how can we apply some of that to what's happening here so we can be really strategic and really smart and build a framework that then everything that comes out of Mendocino is kind of part of what happens and how we sort of shape what's going to come next. So, you know, there's a lot of change. We've said this multiple times. I, you know, have done a handful of research and also just as a consumer myself, wanted to pull out some really, really top-tier companies. I think from a marketing perspective, a handful of my clients would sort of like break down our doors. We want to get in some of these publications. And there's an overwhelming amount of coverage that's going on that's talking about cannabis, it's talking about the wellness, medicinal side, and it's also including California as a key part of that. So I think, you know, it feels very chaotic. I learned a lot watching the hearings last night, and there's so much that still needs to be done. But where we are from changing those national and soon to be global perceptions of cannabis and the whole industry that comes under that is happening. And Mendocino is uniquely positioned to really be a part of that. So, you know, I think when we look at this, we just see so much opportunity, and, you know, there's a lot to happen on the policy side, but if we can start having these conversations about marketing and branding and how to get ahead of that, when policy is set and done, all these businesses can just hit the ground running. So today I'm going to kind of talk about 3 different areas of marketing that I felt would be most applicable and helpful for what we're trying to talk about. One of which is positioning, the next one's going to be channel distribution, and then sort of influencer marketing, all of which I'll go into a bit more detail. But, you know, from a positioning standpoint, consumers are seeing over 10,000 branded messages a day. And that's so overwhelming. It's, you know, they change their screens 21 times an hour, which correlates to roughly 8 seconds of attention. So the market is incredibly oversaturated, and that's across everything. I think if you look within the cannabis industry, it'd be interesting to see even what that competition looks like. So there's such a strong need to be able to think through not only the Mendocino County, but, you know, everything that falls under that, all of our companies, distributors, and dispensaries that come out of that. How can they stand and rise above all of that conflict and all of that conversation? And so we have this sort of approach that we talk about at Edelman often, and it's kind of like these 3 different areas of how we can think through, you know, the strengths and weaknesses of Mendocino County and play on the strengths and, you know the weaknesses so they don't get in our way and become a roadblock. How can we think through company or, you know, to expand that county goals? I think one thing that came through so strongly last night is the importance of the small farmers and that heritage that Mendocino has and wanting to hold on to that as we move forward. I think that's a huge crux of what's going to be happening in the marketing space, whether it's tours or, you know, any other sort of element that's included. The small farmers are going to be a huge part of whatever happens. And then sort of those customer benefits and values. Really, what are you giving customers, whether it's a consumer or it's another company that's buying from you? What do you offer them that your competition doesn't? What does Mendocino offer that maybe Humboldt doesn't? What does the whole county offer that maybe Portland doesn't? So it's really finding that unique positioning and being able to own a space within the very complex, chaotic market and then stand out and kind of go forward as a larger framework from there. The next one, channel distribution. So to kind of take a little bit of a step back. Channel, the way I'm talking about it, is an avenue in which we can tell some message. So, you know, the county has a website, and they put information on the website that's informative on permits or events or working groups. That's the website is a channel. The information that's on there, that's kind of the channel they're choosing to use as distribution. The county may also have a Twitter, and maybe that's where they put a different type of information. So that's another channel. So oftentimes we talk a lot about channel distribution and how, from a marketing standpoint, this is really valuable for us to get our message out there. I think another thing we walked away from the hearings last night was that the medicinal side of cannabis is something that should stay true to this economy. And so, you know, maybe the message is how CBD supports arthritis, and the channel in which you'll communicate that to your audiences, you know, it's going to be something that reaches that audience. So you wouldn't tell teenagers about arthritis and kind of engage them on social channels. Maybe you'd look to find out where are the baby boomers reading and gathering their information, and how can you engage with them. You know, maybe they're reading AARP, and you do an in-depth article about the benefits of CBD and arthritis, and answer questions that they may have, and kind of foresee that, tying it back to Mendocino and the heritage that Mendocino has, so that you're reaching an audience where they are engaging. Yeah?
The first CBD strains were found in Coblo, in Round Valley,
Amazing.
California, Mendocino County.
That's,
Let's
yeah,
take it
that
to
should be in the AARP.
It was at my farm, so I know it for a fact.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
And it's documented.
Yeah.
Cannabis, which it's awesome.
I mean, that's a thing.
Yeah.
The difference between
Anyway,
having.
I just wanted to throw that in there
No,
because I
totally.
couldn't help
And that's
myself.
honestly like that kind of element of what's so unique to Mendocino is what's going to help Mendocino stand up. I mean, knowing that there's such an upswell in understanding the medicinal side of cannabis, and then having something like an age-old understanding of that with the community that's here, that's going to set Mendocino apart. So that's, you know, a great nugget of information.
It had all to do with breeding, and breeding in Mendocino specifically, because they didn't breed for only psychoactive. They bred for weather and, you know, different results.
Yeah.
And so through that, they have, I guess what I would say is a fuller cannabinoid panel
Yeah.
than, say, an indoor breeder.
Mm.
And so yes, I think we should take that and run because it's
Totally.
so educational.
As far as actually Mendocino County is one of the few places that has had growers growing seed for 30, 40, 50 years. A lot of the original seed that went to the Amsterdam seed stocks came from growers in Mendocino County.
Yeah, that's true.
Down in the 70s and 80s. And
Totally.
I mean, most of the genetics, honestly, that you see originally come from somebody starting seeds up here, somebody cutting clones. Most of the genetics that are out there in the States. So.
Yeah. And I mean, so much of what I talk about with my clients, whether it's Netflix or HBO or here at LA, you know, they want to revert back to their roots and their heritage, and that's what the consumer wants. You know, the consumer doesn't want to eat something that a corporation made; they want to eat something that someone made. And so, having this incredibly age-old history and heritage, like all data insights tell you that's what consumers want, and that's what all companies at every scale are trying to revert back to. So right now, the Mendocino cannabis industry is sort of like starting with that. That's the meat you guys have to play with, is this heritage and the generational practices and the seeds that have been passed down. You know, that's all of the kind of framework and building blocks that can move forward a framework for Mendocino County. So, still on sort of channel distribution, I want to kind of explain this. One thing that we talk about a lot is, you know, you have your content. Maybe that is this piece of article about CBD helping arthritis. You know, there's many different ways you can look at how it's reaching your audience so that, like the previous slide, you're positioned to stand out above competition. Owned, that is something like the county's website, the county's Twitter handle, social handles. Those are owned properties. Earned, that's something like all the coverage we just saw. You know, New York Times, The New Yorker, Bon Appetit. Those are all earned kind of publications that you can have your message show up. Bought, that's what we're going to talk about in a second. But that's really where you're paying for your content to show up. I think across the board, there's still a need to have a very natural, clear message that's easy for the customer to understand. It's just about where you're putting it in the marketplace so that they're most likely to engage with it. The goal with the past two slides is really just to have conversations with your consumers where they are. You know, meet them where they are, have those natural conversations, get them excited and build up the awareness.
I wanted to say, so as the county thinks about how they want to get that message out, you know, these are the areas to start to think about. What are you going to do in your own properties? What are you going to consider buying or placing or intentionally putting? And then how are you leveraging those to get some earned media out of big names? And you know, there's strategies that you put into place for doing each one, but collectively, that's how you really begin to up-level the message of whatever messages you're trying to put.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say something, but everyone might think I'm wacky, but I don't think it's very good to call people that might be getting into cannabis, maybe for the first time, consumers. It's just sort of like they're eating a burger. It's a mind and body, health, medical and spiritual. I think it's really important.
Yes.
You know.
I mean, that's completely
Really
fair.
something to think about.
Totally.
Different outside
Consumer
of
is a part of my
I know,
burned into my lifestyle.
Yeah,
You're right. I mean,
think about it slightly different.
and I think
for
one
this.
thing we talk about a lot too is, you know, a consumer is not a consumer is not a consumer. You know, it is understanding your specific audience. So
Yeah,
is
I
that
know.
someone who's very interested in wellness? Is that someone who has ailments and they like the alternative medicine? So it's, for this conversation, I'm very high level, but
Just throwing it out there.
totally. And I think we do, at Edelman, we do a lot of tailored campaigns where, you know, we want to pick one specific type of person and kind of address their needs and wants from a branded perspective so that we can meet their needs. But yeah, I mean, and I think too, we have a whole host of different people to engage with within the umbrella of the cannabis
Well,
industry.
we have a history of coming up with our own nomenclature, and then really it just becomes, like, I don't use the word industry anymore, I use market.
Awesome.
I'm part of the cannabis market because I just feel like the industry isn't representing what I want to create. And so we can probably find a word for consumer that we can.
Totally. I read
Even
complain.
customers less painful than
Yeah,
consumer. Even,
yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
Or well, you can't say patient because recreational isn't patient. Though I think
Yeah.
they're still patients.
Well, we can have some fun with it
Yeah.
in the future.
And I read something that called them cannacasseurs.
Connoisseurs, yeah.
Connoisseurs.
Just like cannabis, you can't
Totally.
get me to say anything
Exactly.
about that
So
now.
I think we're in such unknown territory that creating our own lexicon to speak of the people that enjoy canna at large can come as part of the conversations.
And it's evolving. It's
Yeah.
changing.
Yeah.
What you decide today isn't going to necessarily work next year.
Yeah.
As this.
But you're framing
changes
it
and
right
more.
now, so you're
Totally.
framing a tiny little tweak on the word.
Consumer.
Well, no, the word consumer is really negative.
I got you. Anyways,
I like it.
No, I love it.
Can't explode.
Any other questions before I move on from here? Cool. So the third element I wanted to talk about is this idea of influencer marketing. At Edelman, I sort of oversee a portion of this practice, and it's sort of a tried and true, proven tactic that we've seen have a lot of success. And I think someone during the introductions had said, you saying how well this working group does better than me. And that's really what I'm talking about when I say influencer marketing. It's finding individuals who can help communicate your brand message. Typically those individuals have very large social media following, so they have sort of a level of credibility and are above and beyond the average consumer, but how can we engage them to help get our audience, our message out there? Inside of our industry, so part of the cannabis market or outside of the market as an outsider, and how can they sort of bridge that? This model on the left, it used to be flipped. There was this idea that the mass public found all their information from a small group of people, mostly government and business. Given the landscape of our 2018 society, government has lost a lot of trust with consumers, and so has business. And so there's this flipped model that we talk about a lot with our clients that is, the mass public looks to many different resources to gather information about the brands they want to purchase. They look to many different areas for, how should they pick out a brand they want, or how should they trust a brand that they're focused on. And so this kind of whole flip is how influencer marketing has kind of risen up, because that gives us these credible experts in their space, whether it's through professional development or through personal experiences, that can speak on behalf of a brand. I threw in the stat, it's helped 5 times the ROI than other forms of advertising because it's really natural and it's really authentic. And it's a really clear way to help get messages out there and reach new audiences. For the cannabis market, I kind of thought through 2 different types of influencers out there are individuals that are already advocating for the industry and sort of, you're seeing a whole host of social media channels pop up of these individuals all across the West Coast and probably elsewhere that are showing how they're enjoying cannabis. And that's something that's sort of new. People weren't really talking about how they're using it a few years ago. So that's one form of an influencer. Another one is through, I don't know how many are familiar with the company Ease. Yep. So Ease is a digital marketplace. Essentially, it's in the Bay Area. It's expanding quite a bit. They really are an online dispensary categorized by flower versus all pre-rolls, topicals, what have you. But they also produce their own content. They do newsletters about the benefits of CBD. They do a collection of products that are fit for the artisanal connoisseur. And so they are kind of influential in the space that they're able to become a source of information for consumers, for people purchasing things, and they also can kind of help educate around the whole marketplace of what's happening. So they're a different form of influence that's still really valuable.
You want to talk about Edelman's research?
Yes. So Marianne and Ryan, so where this sort of upside down triangle comes from is Edelman, my agency, does an annual survey on trust and how people look at the businesses, government, NGOs, and media. And where do they trust kind of the information that's coming from it? They just completed the survey for 2018, and it's at an all-time low. I mean, fake news, no one trusts media. No one trusts the government. People are really skeptical with corporations. So there's just such a kind of chaotic swirl with where consumers, in terms of the mass public, feel like they can turn to gather really good information that's credible and sound and has their best interests. I think one thing that's supernatural that's happening up here in Mendocino that I've heard through conversations is that, the integrity of the farmers, the integrity of what people are looking for out of their products is so naturally intrinsic to what's happening here. So, that's something that we often have to coach our clients to try and achieve, whereas you guys have it as part of the framework. And I think, we're often looking to figure out ways, whether it's through partnering with an influencer to help kind of rebuild that trust for some of our clients, or having them take a more purpose-driven approach to how they produce their products. This morning we were with Amanda Ryman at Flocana, and she gave us a tour of their amazing facilities and just everything they're doing to support the community right here. She's going to have so much trust from their customers of whatever size or source that they just are having from right out the gate because of how they build their industry. So I think it's natural up here, but it's definitely an issue with customers. So to move along, I have 2 more slides, just kind of how this industry, how this marketplace is changing. I pulled some quotes from those articles I had linked above, but the CEO of Ease says the story here is that the average cannabis consumer is becoming the average American. Furthermore, this analyst of the alcohol and cannabis market says that perception is shifting so much so that it's plausible that threat to alcohol. I think that one, I don't know how I feel about yet because we want to hold on to that wellness, medicinal side of it versus being compared to alcohol. And then just to reiterate what Marianne started with, from last night's hearings, there's so much potential for growth on a very large scale that Mendocino can not only be part of, but can be a leader in. And oftentimes we talk to our clients about this transformational innovation and how the horse led to the car, which now led to Tesla. And no one knew at the time when they were talking and figuring out how to evolve transportation that Tesla and self-driving cars was the future. And I think, while we talk about that with Netflix and what they've done with streaming, this is something that we're seeing right now as well. I don't think anyone really knows what the future is, but I think there's a ton of opportunity, and this is going to change and really grow in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next... So I think we're on the cusp of big, big change. And then here are some that I feel like are doing well with this change. So I've broken it out into wellness products. So some of you may recognize Swami. He's local Mendocino. Distribution as well as community building. I think these are ones that are able to really clearly market their message. When you go to Swami's website, you see a quick description about what they're offering, sun-grown cannabis products, and then right below that you see the company goals. And it's this kind of mix of purity and 2 other elements, and their heritage has brought them forward to kind of offer this product in a specific way. And so everything we talked about with how he's positioning the company and how he's able to, leverage different channels, whether it's social or website. I feel like that was a really great example. These 2, we're in much more of a wellness space. Care by Design is so focused on CBD and support of alternative medicines. And then sort of the distribution. I was told that the coastal distribution and dispensaries up here are wonderful that I'll have to check out and probably add some to the slide. And then the final one, community building. This is really sort of like that education element. Curious Cannabis Salon, they're Bay Area, San Francisco, and they're pushing out policy changes and they're pushing out articles, but they're also giving tours of farms and dispensaries. So they're kind of giving their audience like all the information they could need to be an informed connoisseur. And so same with the others is why they make Mary's up in Portland. And so this is really kind of a glimpse at, I think, a few examples that are doing well. And then I think that's it.
And
And yeah, it looks like we have some papa and
there's
barley.
a number of things here based on Esther.
Right, so I attended the International Cannabis Business Conference, and there was probably about 250, over 250 people, but more importantly, there were probably about 75 vendor booths. So, you know, the level of sophistication that you're getting already in the types of, this is a consumer products business, that's what they really emphasize, and branding is going to be very important. And they see a real change from smoking joints to non-joint and wellness and peripheral products. But even in some of the you know, here's a whole magazine that's just on edibles, and most of what's in it is, you know, the various products that rather than some that are articles. If you go to two of the bigger dispensaries in San Jose, you know, you can get these, the magazines are there for you to pick up. So, and this Papa and Barclay, I mean, this is a consumer products packaging, and that's where the market's going. So, and even in just having to pick up something at a dispensary, some nice packaging materials and those that are supporting the industry, but it's a very professional industry at this point.
And a lot of those are very educational as well.
And some of them, yes, you know, here's one, I think this one is CBD, Care by Design, so it is. What is CBD? So this whole thing is totally educational for the consumer, so, yeah. So you're welcome to take a look at any of these.
And I think the thing to remember as we're doing this too, I mean, we're all, each of you have your own perspective on this and thinking about it, but you know, you're really part of this big growing industry that's getting, you know, rapidly sophisticated at so many different ways and so many different levels. So we want to be aware of it, we want to engage where it's appropriate, and we want to put our best foot forward at whatever level we're doing our work at. And so that's, you know, what this is just to sort of bring that to everyone's attention, and we'll do that over and over again, you know, to help our county be as successful as it. Cool. Any other questions for?
That's great.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Are you next?
PowerPoint, you showed that Mendocino produces 60%.
Yes.
Really,
Okay.
plus,
This one. Okay.
I think Humboldt actually does more than us right now.
Okay. That we were like chicken scratching our heads from last night. All of
I went
this.
to
Emerald Triple and French.
Yes.
We need to change that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
No, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
make it right, get it back.
Strive to meet this deadline.
Competition.
Janine. So now I'll pass it off to you.
Great, thanks. And Janine,
It sure should be. Oh yeah.
Yes.
So I wanted to let you all know a little bit about my background. I have a background in design and marketing and communications as well. I worked for Whole Foods Market for about 10 years in Chicago and in the Bay Area. And I also have a background in nonprofit education. And I also have been a cultivator of cannabis for 25 years. And so this project has been a really lovely confluence of all of my passions and skills. So appellation of origin, a way of communicating the origin story of an agricultural product to the world. They're legally defined and protected geographical indications found on the label of a qualifying agricultural product. It is a regulatory system, so it regulates the varietals, production standards, and the goal is really to get to a qualitative product that's replicable and really bringing renown to the region. And so there's value to the producer, the distributor, the retailer, and the consumer, and above all, the region. And so just to clarify, geographical indications are a category of intellectual property rights. And so appellation of origin are a special kind of geographical indication because they really are awarded to products that can prove that the qualitative characteristics are a result exclusively of its geographical origin and its cultural heritage. And so there's three sort of caches of qualifying criteria for appellation of origin. Terroir is a French concept. It's very romantic, and it encompasses the entire environmental condition. So looking at the climate, topography, soil, and water composition. Traditional knowledge is my personal favorite component, and so that speaks to the culture and the craft over generations. And then metabolomics are the way that those things combine to express in the product. So you're looking at the genetic lineage and the chemical expression of the crop, which for cannabis would be the terpenes, the flavonoids, and the cannabinoid profiles. And so that's how you really experience the expression of the place and the production through the product. So a little bit of history about the appellations. First, really, 1411 in France for Roquefort cheese. And then the first law on viticultural designations, August 1st, 1905. So Bordeaux wine, prosciutto de Parma, Champagne, Mexican tequila, you recognize those names, you recognize the region. It's a very, very powerful marketing tool. And I thought it would be fun to see some labels. The teas are really interesting to me. I really like the way that they designed that. Tequila. So governance of appellations. They really are governed by some kind of certifying organization or governmental body because they're really qualitatively based. And so there's the criteria that's been established, the standards of production, and then a certification process that goes on in order to maintain that those standards are in fact being adhered to. A little bit of history about the Mendocino Appellations Project was initiated in 2015, and there were a lot of efforts going around food policy and cannabis policy in Mendocino County. And so we did a lot of grassroots outreach to local farmers, and we developed a proposed map of 11 regional appellation zones. And the delineation of each region is really interesting because cannabis has a unique history. We didn't gravitate towards ideal prime agricultural land to cultivate, and so the way that the cultivation and the culture evolved has a really kind of unique history. And so in dialoguing with the communities, a lot of what was used to determine these delineations on the map were where does the culture really identify as their community? Where does Pomchi start and end? I'm from Pomchi personally. And we looked at things like volunteer fire department districts, food services, general stores, granges, post offices, school districts. These are how we've kind of come to gravitate as a community, and this is how we've exchanged our varietals and our information and our practices over time as cultivators. This is a Swami Select product here. Swami works with the Mendocino Appellations Project. He's a great influencer for branding. And this shows conjunctive labeling, which will be really key moving forward with cannabis as a product in terms of identifying region. So we've got Mendocino County, we've got the sub-Appalachian region of Bell Springs, and then the state. And so this is how we'll tie in with the County of Origin program over time as appellations develop. So these are some of our strategic partners. Mendocino Grown, the Mendocino Cannabis Industry Association focused on branding and marketing. California Growers Association is exclusively focused on policy development. The 420 archive I mentioned earlier. And I have some materials over there if you guys want to get more information. There's a little lookbook about 420 and some of our projects. Another thing that's of interest to developing the tourism sector for cannabis is National Historic Registry. And so farms that have been in continuous operation for 50 years qualify. And what's really interesting about that is that you receive a 20% discount on your federal tax for any business that you're running off of that property. So it's a really powerful tool for our legacy sites. And then the International Cannabis Farmers Association is a nonprofit organization. They work on policy and they're also working on research. And so they're our research partner. And they recently introduced a bill in partnership with Assemblyman Levine, AB 2810, and it proposes the formation of a sun-grown cannabis agricultural commission. Agricultural commissions are also known as marketing groups. So it's a really powerful tool. The structure of it is proposed to be a statewide commission with county commissions. And so there's really 3 charges for an agricultural commission: research, marketing, and then policy advocacy. And so the research drives the marketing message, which drives the industry forward. So you've all heard, where's the beef, or got milk. Those are the products and the amazing prowess of an agricultural commission. And so it's really exciting for us. For MAP, we're really focused on research and education, and so the agricultural commissions will be a huge tool to really fund and drive research from within the community. And so these are some of the deliverables of Appalachians tied into agritourism. They're quite extensive and exciting. Direct sales are key, hospitality, tasting room, farm tours, wellness. I mean, there's a really amazing confluence, I think, of what Mendocino County already has in place with our tourism industry and the potential for agritourism moving forward. And another thing that's really exciting about Appalachian of Origin is that we're working with cannabis, but the goal is to work with all agriculture, right? And so building those bridges between the wine industry and the food producing industry. And I'm really excited about your vision that you voiced around international, because our goal with establishing Appalachian of Origin is that we're working to establish them in part with international standards. And so once Schedule 1 drops, and we have the opportunity to an international craft market, we really want the opportunity to be enforced by our standards, that they're really on par with an internationally recognized Appalachian of Origin market. And so legislation has passed, SB 94, passed in the fall of last year, and it relegated the Department of Food and Agriculture to establish Appalachian of Origin standards as well as County of Origin standards. So County of Origin standards are already in play through Track and Trace. And then CDFA has until 2021 to establish their whole process and their program for Appalachian of Origin, including standards, practices, and varietals. And this is significant because appellations in the United States for wine, the AVAs, American Viticultural Areas, are largely just really geographical designations. They don't have the qualitative standards associated with it. And this is another opportunity that we have because of Schedule 1, because it's under CDFA and it's not going to the to the federal agencies. We have the opportunity to take it to the next level. And so there's kind of a growing movement of vintners that are really interested in this opportunity to elevate the Appalachian standards in the United States to a much more traditional and robust version such as they have in Europe. And another one of our influencers, we're very lucky to have Richard Mendelson as one of our advisors. And he's a wine lawyer and a winemaker, and he was an integral part of establishing the Napa appellation for wine. So a little bit about what we're recommending as a coalition of organizations working towards establishing Appalachian of Origin. That they're cultivated under an outdoor license type, so again, we're looking for a traditional Appalachian of Origin designation. Flowering in full sun and planted in the ground. So the goal is not to really provide appellation protections for indoor cannabis, because that would be a huge break with the traditional international standards in place. And so we're really trying to become on par with that. It's really a regional intellectual property right. And so it's essential that the standards that come forward for each appellation are really researched regionally and protect the unique environment, agricultural practices, and varietals collectively produced in that region that create that exceptional regional product. So we're advocating for regional research, like a lot of local stakeholder input and local authority to develop regional appellation districts and standards.
Are you including greenhouse grown as possible with other appellations, or is that?
You know, there's a lot of discussion going on because it's an annual, and this is the very first annual that will receive appellation designations. And so, you know, there's a lot of discussion around starting, you know, early starts, right, and light assisted, and, you know, where's that line, right? But our goal is really to move for as traditional as possible designation, and also that's regenerative in terms of the ecological practices and local economics. This is an amazing engine for localized economic development.
One thing about the greenhouse being in, if it's the regular outdoor cycle, you really, if you're not allowing that to be included, you're taking away each part of the market. Because the greenhouse, what a lot of the market wants right now, because they're uneducated, is that pretty looking nighttime spot.
Right.
And you can do that a lot easier in greenhouse to some extent, especially
Sure.
if on a rough season of, like, I have some greenhouse and some pure outdoor. And if there's a rough season on weather, well, I'm really excited I had that greenhouse going if there's a rough on weather.
So it's an interesting question because we're right at the crossroads where we're trying to honor a heritage, but we're building a legacy for the future. And so we're trying to create a system and policy that is flexible so that people can move into the program of appellations, and as it develops over time, perhaps they can move their whole crop in that direction, right? But we've got to build the market while we're building the policy, and also supporting farmers with information, education, methodology to really elevate their craft. And so that's something I think we'll see develop over time, and to really try and honor, I think especially during this transition, a lot of folks need to do what they need to do in terms of, you know, multiple crops, multiple harvests.
The light depth is amazing too. I mean,
It is.
That's why Humboldt is.
Yeah, I've learned
right
to be a
now.
light depth farmer, yeah.
I still, that should be able to be under that.
So community-driven research is the research methodology that MAP has adopted. I'm really excited about this. It's a partnership approach to research, and it involves community members, organizational representatives, and researchers in all aspects of the research. And so we work together to define what the goals of the community are, what the research goals are, and create the methodology together, and share the intellectual property rights from the very beginning. And so it's a way of building trust with the community and really working to protect, right, the regional IP moving forward. And so we're working with our advisor, Rachel Gerardo. She's a PhD anthropologist out of UC Northridge, and she's got expertise in community-driven research, and so we're working on a feasibility paper to be published at the end of spring that will outline our research methodology moving forward. And so the goal is to really support the regional communities in developing their data to really identify what their unique practices and standards and varietals are, so that when CDFA is ready to issue appellation of origin designations in 2021, the communities and regions have that clear petition moving forward. And it's a really powerful tool for community organizing as well, coming together and having that conversation and really identifying our value to each other and collectively moving forward. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
So, where we are today, let's see.
Bringing you back up.
Yeah, before you open it up, just go to the question and answer slide.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll do it. So, is everyone familiar, and Sarah, I don't know how much you have shared about the Cal Origins.
No, I can give some background in a little
Give
bit.
some background, yeah.
So we have a local track and trace, and I think our vision ultimately, wherever the track and trace portion goes, I think our ultimate goal is to somehow retain some type of branding and some type of stamping that we can use or change over time to be able to mark uniquely county product and hopefully maybe mark uniquely appellations. So I think there's that branding component that we want to keep long term, and how can we have things as a county that we can say with pride, this is Mendocino County. This is our product. And I know I'll speak on behalf of the executive office in Carmel, is we in our office are really passionate about economic development, and we're really passionate about marketing. And we want to see how can public and private partnership work? How can the county build bridges, maybe with the tourism commission, or how can we utilize social media, other things to help you all in your businesses, or at least brand the county so there's more value in something that is produced, grown here, completely produced here, or manufactured here. And so we've been working on, as you come in and get permitted, you'll be put into the program. We're hoping by the end of the year that most of our applicants in 2017 will be in our program and will have issued permits. And a part of that is this Cal Origin site. So we're in Cal Origin, Humboldt's in Cal Origin, Eureka, Arcata's coming on board, and YOLO. And we all have specific things that we're trying to market. YOLO is very medical. We have a lot of different aspects here in Mendocino County, and so part of that is this redesign of the Cal Origin website, where when someone scans their barcode, they can learn about the farm's individual products. So you can be able to highlight whatever you want to highlight, but there's also a page that talks about the jurisdiction. What is Mendocino County? And so we've been working on our specific page for Mendocino County with Mary Ann to try to start that initial phase of giving Mendocino an identity, so that when we start to see consumers scan our products, they can also not only learn about the farm it's coming to, but about the region. And we're hoping we can eventually tie these things in with other aspects down the road, so that when people visit this site, they can be tied into tourism opportunities or different things like that. So we have a vision long term of how we can help in the process. So she's going to show you a little bit of what the design looks like and some of the stuff that we've been working on, and hopefully get your feedback. And I'm excited long term to see this group grow and come up with some great ideas of how the county can help boost the industry.
So you had to start somewhere, right? I mean, this is all about just beginning. And a lot of the stuff that Amy shared with you, at the front end about positioning, understanding your strengths, understanding your weaknesses, understanding what the goals are, what the objectives are. And as Sarah said, this is a way to begin that umbrella conversation about what Mendocino County is. So we started out by saying Mendocino, the word evokes freedom, the freedom to live as one with the land, the freedom to choose the best of nature's offerings. Mendocino County, where rugged hilltops crash against ocean waves and sprawling farmlands are reinvigorated by sustainable practices. The diverse typography creates the premium products of the Emerald Triangle, the Mendocino Mystique. And the Mendocino Mystique is the way we would start the conversation of what could evolve for Mendocino. This gives you an idea about how the website is.
Do you want me to pull it up?
Yeah, we can have it actually up. And we have a proof of concept website developed. But what we try to do is take advantage of the history, the heritage, the legacy. We try to talk about the natural environment of the county, and you can see them in the Mystique starts to evolve the conversation. Now, this is just the early stages. The idea is to build off of this. Is, as you say, talk about the farms, talk about the land, talk about the people, do much more. But as you go into learning more about what Mendocino represents, you will be able to evolve this.
What's the website?
This is the Cal Origins website.
CalOrigins.org.
It's track and trace.
Yes.
Is this already on?
Yes.
This is
This is
live.
live.
This isn't live yet. I don't think
It should be. It
will
is
be.
live.
Oh, it is live?
It is live, but we have the ability to change it as whenever we want, as we see fit.
And
So this is our starting point, so that our page doesn't say coming soon.
So
And
we'll
we'll show
attach
you
the
also-
track and trace Cal Origin? Okay, cool.
And we'll show you Humboldt too, so you can get a sense, because Humboldt right away
Yeah.
came out the gate. But if you're, I'll talk a little bit about that. But what we try to do is to highlight different aspects. Now again, it's not fully robust yet. That's what we want to establish. But we're trying to show Mendocino as a premium brand. We need to talk about ourselves in that proud way, about our history, about the craftsmanship, about the artisanal, flavor of the county. We really need to really begin now, and now's the time to do this. We can't do it a year from now because we'll be inundated. I mean, you can see everything that's being involved. Now's the time for us to really put our best foot forward and really start to see ourselves as that premium brand, the best the Emerald Triangle. And it's going to take time, but it will happen. It will happen as each of us in our respective areas kind of buy into this, support it, highlight it, and really work together in terms of how this works. Now this gives you an idea of this is what Humboldt did. And they played it straight. They just talked about the fact that they are sustainable and legal. It doesn't really have an evocative feeling of Humboldt. It's the facts and that they're out there and they have their farmers. But what we want you to do is really to buy into, Mendocino does have an aura about it. I mean, you've mentioned that you talk to people from outside the country, you travel the world. I run into people all the time and they're like, oh yeah, I know about Mendocino, and there's this, there is a mystery about it. And so playing off of that while tying into the fact of that craftsmanship and regional So this is our first foray into it, but again, we'll evolve it further. And also, and this is what I hope that we will be doing in the county, is once we now have kind of started this working group, really start to create that communication framework. And if you can just, I'm sorry, we're hopping back, but hop back to the
Besides
PowerPoint.
Yeah.
And that last slide there, slide 14, talks a little bit about how we can start to create a framework. And the framework can begin to consist of work that's coming out of the marketing working groups, the appellations, perhaps consider doing an incubation hub here. I mean, why couldn't Mendocino be the place that is innovating the newest products that could come out around cannabis? I mean, we don't, as Amy said, when the Model Ford, Model Ford was involved, nobody knew that Tesla was going to happen, When the internet began, nobody knew that Facebook was going to happen. I mean, we're right here at the very beginning. So why not make Mendocino the county for innovation in cannabis and really show it as a leader of evolving the right way to do this. So there's a lot of different things that we can start to put into this framework, evolve it, and it can come from this working group. We can bring other people into the community-driven conversation, but then begin to really have a game plan and a strategy that everyone could see how they are moving forward. And then hopefully then the county then can choose the places, the distribution channels where we want to market ourselves and put ourselves out there. And there may be, whether it's magazines or publications or digital places or trade shows, but we have to start now building that Mendocino County brand.
And I just want to add in one thing, it's somewhat related. I know as a county we're really excited about Assemblyman Wood's bill about giving locals more authority to hold events. Yeah. And we just passed a letter of support, but we really are trying to push for that too because we see tourism as a viable option for us, and we want to be able to allow more of these kind of farmers markets and events because it's, I think we have a lot of products too for outside of the county, but I think there's so much potential with this beautiful county that we live in and bringing people from all over the world and all over the state to come visit us and experience that.
And it'll support Measure B.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to tell the sheriff, how else do you think we're going to support Measure B? Canada tourist taxes.
And I was just going to add on that, we were talking with Flo Khanna this morning, and she had said too, how can we work with dispensaries to have Mendocino own product and showcase maybe Appalachians is integrated with that. They have events, so it's very, when you come up here, you're just like inundated with all things Mendocino, and you have that experience, but then when you go home to wherever, you can also find those products.
Yeah.
This is a little bit on topic and a little bit off topic, but I just want to present this group because I totally agree with what you're proposing. But from a practical standpoint, because we did just obtain a state license last Friday, but I'm still in complication with it, and I'm on the front lines of this, but I also have regular businesses, and I've never seen anything in my life like this. I've had our consultant for water and forestry say to me at our last visit, Stuart, you're being persecuted. There's no industry that has rules and regulations like this. It's impossible. And what I want to say to promote this, and I really support this approach, the zoning, the county zoning, eliminates 85% of the county. It's wiping out people right and left, forcing this zoning regulation is counterproductive to the business and marketing model that we're presenting, because we want to show wine, waves, and wilderness. Well, it's basically trying to push everybody into ag land. Ag land is a hot area, and marijuana, just like Pinot Noir, grows in more calm, cooler climates up in the hills, where the rangeland and forest land is.
And I just want to kind of hop in there. I think what we saw last night is a very good example that none of this is set in stone.
Right.
None of it. And you got a full board. I feel like there's movement and there's changes, and we may have made some mistakes in the past, but nothing is not fixable. And I think that's starting. We're doing our next round of changes for rangeland to get rid of some of those restrictions for TPZ as well at the Planning Commission next month. And I think it's important that this marketing group brings that to the table, and the working groups as a whole, and recommendations, because what Janelle says earlier matters. When recommendations like that to address zonings comes from the working groups, that goes farther with the board of supervisors than a staff person saying, this isn't a wise idea.
That's why I brought
And
it
so
up.
that's why I'm excited, because I think that this group too can tie in with the other ones, because we have the state requirement / local ordinance group that's working on recommendations of how to change the ordinances. Then we have the building requirements working on what kind of requirements can we change in the building and the planning area to get permits through. So I think it's important we all tie it together, because we can get it right. It just might take a few years.
Well, and I also see,
The small farmers will be out of business.
Putting the brakes on 100
You're
years of
suffocating the
cannabis
baby
prohibition.
before
It's difficult, it is tricky.
and
It
I
is
also
tricky.
see the marketing group
Tricky.
as, showing people the opportunity. You're right, what you're saying is that there is this challenge and that you could be just strangling yourself unnecessarily.
That could be.
But what the marketing needs to do is project what could be. Like we have the same with the Appalachian. It's like we have this huge opportunity to take advantage of. So yes, it's time to relook at this. And I did take that away, by the way. It said
Overlay
everything's in
the
flux.
Appalachian project over county zoning, and you'll see that Comanche, for example, there's not that much ag land, but it's an incredible region for growth. And the general plan is not consistent with how this plant works. And all of these small boutique farmers, just like in Anderson Valley, we're not allowed to grow acres and acres of grapes. I can put in right now, temperature sensitive, I can put in 40 acres of Pinot Noir grapes, no problem. But 1/4 acre, we're being told to do things that are absolutely insane. And it's hindering even my level of sophistication. My head's bursting.
Can I interject something from the marketing standpoint and what you're saying and what the county's going through right now? I have this hypothesis, this Mendocino mystique that you brought up. Part of that is because of where the plant has grown up in these, my ranch is 20 minutes from the highway and up in these beautiful mountains. Along with being a mystique, because being up in there, it's incredibly beautiful. It's also incredibly clean. I have lichen that is an endangered species. I have moss that's an endangered species. And I don't see how ag land, especially conventional ag land, is going to be able to supply the kind of clean medicine what we make medicine out of. And when we test our stuff, it comes back clean. I don't have to do anything special because I'm a biodynamic farmer, and it's grown in this place. It's beautiful and clean. Ag land is not beautiful and clean anymore.
No.
I don't see how Central Valley is ever going to grow anything clean. So that's part of what this group could really, like you're saying, Mendocino Mystique, which, and it probably won't stick, but it's a good start. The mystique is, how are you going to grow this kind of thing that we've been providing, this this area anywhere else. Because you can't do it in Central Valley, you can't do it down in Southern California. You can't do it inside, you can't do it in artificial light, you can't, all of those things. And I think it's really gonna, like you were saying, like Sarah was saying last night, the things are changing already. I'm in rangeland. In the very beginning, if I don't have my print in by December 31st, that's at the end. And it's not that way anymore.
I truly believe so. This is the most bizarre experience I have seen where the state makes the counties go first, which is really ridiculous.
Well, no,
but
we were just more
that's
progressive.
but the way the regulations went, you have to have your local
sure.
authorization first. It's weird.
Oh,
It doesn't really work that way in a lot of other aspects of it. But I think we can see with shared advocacy of reducing some of these state requirements. I think it's easier for counties to say, let's lay off the regs because we're pushed. Do your secret, do this, do all this sturdy stuff. I think if we can have shared advocacy and see the state kind of reduce some of these requirements, that it's going to be easier for locals to come alongside and say, okay, we're going to reduce it too. And I even think just us talking about like, let's do mix and match, or what we're working on for adult uses, we're just going to get rid of adult and medical. You get a cannabis permit, and we can kind of have this influence of getting rid of these small barriers like M&A designations and, paying all these fees. But I think as the state hears it and changes, it will be easier for Mendocino County to say, let's lay off the restrictions. With any type of government, there's always fear of anything new and what happens when it blows up. And I think, I actually think the wine industry, cannabis is seeing some backlash from some of the wine growth that happened really rapidly in Northern California.
Yeah.
I have something I'd like to kind of twist the subject, but the one reason I also came to this meeting is I'd like to be part of a county development business plan for cannabis. And I think it would even be great because of the size of our county if we had it district by district, and to actually come up with a business plan. You know the importance. And we don't have a business plan. And so I think that if we could come up with a business plan development, and I bet there's already examples of where the county is trying to romance an industry or bring an industry into their community, we could just look at. And
I do know that the county is, and we presented on this, just an economic development plan that will include business development as a key component of the county.
And all businesses, including cannabis.
Yes, right. And in that case, it
I mean, it would have been
all
my
businesses.
preference that before they could have ever taken a application from a cultivator is that they required a business plan and SOPs. And you have to in a competitive market, with, different license types down the city, like for a dispensary, that here is just like, oh yeah, and it's just like, everybody's like, all right, I got my permit. Well, that's like probably a sixth of the work you're gonna have to do to be successful. And so, but
and we
then again,
we talked about it a lot because that's a huge.
but once it becomes competitive, that's what it'll boil down to. But at this point, it was just like trying to get as many people through the door as possible. And I was probably one of the few growers that ever had a business plan.
I have a comment towards that. Toward that end, originally Mendocino County's promotional was called MCPA, Mendocino County Promotional Alliance.
Yeah.
And that used to receive funds from the county general fund. And then we now have what's called Visit Mendocino, which is part of the Brown Act, and it's more kind of has more state regulations. And recently, Visit Mendocino has agreed to give MCPA to the cannabis industry, and we're meeting with the board next week.
On the 7th, right?
Yeah, on the 7th. And that's the organization I was chairman of before it was VMC, and that's part of this business plan idea. And I think it's really, really important. We made a huge amount of progress.
Great.
So I'd really like to speak to the connection between marketing and advocacy, because I feel like they're really valid points. The more we can message as a region and really showcase our value, I think the more support we'll receive from state agencies to really, okay, we've got these heritage regions, let's look at, the water board's requirements and Fish and Wildlife and what we're doing to this value, because we don't have much time. I'm looking at 3 years, right, until appellation designations are available. It's like, will there be heritage farmers left, right, to protect? And so I think moving forward with that messaging in a really strong way as soon as possible really highlights the situation and frames it in a way that's valuable and of value. And I think getting that shared attention and buy-in from, from state regulators. I mean, McGuire's been a hero for Appalachians. Really, it's been his language that's moved this forward. And so there's a lot of strong advocacy pieces, I think, that tie into the messaging and marketing that are really powerful. Just for example, too, Jamaica's moving forward with establishing appellation of origin for cannabis as well. And so, for example, they're working with Mendel University in Czech Republic to do the research, and they're largely wanting to research ITAL farmers, which are that community, they're trespass growers on Crown land. And so they're ineligible for permitting, but they've issued provincial permitting to them in order to move forward with the research. And so I think also inviting research, talking about incubation hubs, when you're inviting kind of that statute of PhDs and researchers and international attention, it just compounds the positive attention and making the case for the value, and really driving that research. I think would be amazing to be an epicenter for that. And so that's one of the reasons that I really gravitated towards the Appalachians Project, because I feel like it carries all of these really strong pieces.
I just want to say that if we're talking about marketing Mendocino to the world, to the state, to the country, whatever, is to keep it simple. Because after a while, you just kind of go, I mean, it's all the Appalachians and all the heritage and all this is all great, but when it comes down to it, you wanted to get someone, say, from Germany to come over and spend loads of money in a hotel and sample the weed and the wine, and so that's I mean, you've got to keep it somewhat simple, but also the biggest thing, like when I'm traveling as well, is safe. Is it safe? Because at the moment, people don't want to come to America. There's mass shootings all the time. I mean, seriously,
I can't solve
I can't solve that.
We are for
that. Listen, I know you can't solve that, but that's the thing about, like, Mendocino, like, particularly the coast, has quite a good track record of being fairly safe, of all the places. Like, I've spent time in California, there's quite a lot of really nice,
Well, even on
safe...
a transportation issue, if you
Yeah,
encourage people to
transportation.
come here and, buy their year's supply of cannabis, like they would go to the wine country to buy their year supplies of wine, well, it's not legal to have more than an ounce as an adult, or 8 ounces, or as much as your doctor allows as medical, so that'll help us keep medical for a minute. But could we come up with a county seal? So when you come up here and you buy a your whatever, subscribe with your local farmer and you buy your medicine or your, just your outright adult use cannabis, could we have a packaging that with a seal that knows that you've been to Mendocino, you've bought your goods, and now you're traveling back to your home? And as long as the seal's not broken, no laws are broken. There's going to be considerations like that are going to have to play in because we don't want to get them in trouble.
And there's no simple laid out plan that's gonna evolve. I mean, I think everything that everybody is saying that will come into this mix. But I do believe that it is not going to be just one thing. I mean, the Mendocino mystique is a way of starting to talk about the beauty and open the doors for other things. But it's like getting an incubation hub, doing the Appalachian, making sure that the tourism board is looking at this, having the county support to create more things, putting out more information about why people should come to Mendocino, because people come here for different reasons. I mean, all of this has got to evolve over time. What we're trying to do, and I think one of the things that this group might be recommending, is what is that framework, so that framework then can go out to anybody, any small farmer that's developing, whatever branding they want to do, or any other organization that deals with cannabis, that they know what this communication framework looks like. And it might be things like even the language, like we prefer to not use consumer, but we want to use this language, or we don't want to use industry, we want to use this. You can't force people to do it, but you can say, we feel that this evokes the feeling of Mendocino more than maybe this language. So in your marketing materials, you may want to use that. It should happen pretty rapidly. I mean, meeting once a month, it's like you really want to kind of get this into many groups as you
How
can.
often do you think we will be meeting?
So what we've been doing with the other working groups, and we can discuss this, is usually the working groups meet once a month. We've been doing the first Thursday of the month, and we don't have to do it on the same day as the other working
A
groups.
lot of us are on other working groups.
So we could do it the same day, so like as a one-stop shop, you just spend your day in Ukiah.
That's true.
Or we can pick another day. We could do like the first Fridays of the month, or however you kind of wanna move forward. But we do have the first Thursday.
Can you do the call-in?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, 'cause
I
most-
actually run a art gallery, so I've done a few of these meetings at the gallery. I just can't.
And it's actually,
the whole day
if we
off
end up doing it on a Thursday, it may be, I don't know if that's okay with you, our next one on the first Thursday.
How many people are from
if it's-
inland and how many people are from the coastal regions?
Well, we have some people that didn't come today due to weather concerns.
Yeah, it's snowing right now at the ranch.
Yeah.
So, I would, I'd have to look at the full list. And I know we're missing a couple because we have a couple distribution people participating. We have,
Amanda's not here.
she's not here. There's a gal does the branding for Henry's that's not here.
Maybe we should just see how
So,
many
but usually
districts-
it's this group will probably be about 12 to 15. We can plan the next one for the first Thursday. So those that are in the other working groups, you already here. We always have call-in options, and then we also record them and then post them. So like if you missed it, you can listen to the recording. And then, so we can go from there. So the next one would be, we'll email you a time, because we'll find out which time slot we can fit this one into on
I
Thursdays.
only brought it up because I'm used to countywide board meetings, and sometimes you could move them around.
My radio show.
And of course, yesterday's was all canceled because of the day of cannabis. But, so, to be determined, we should be sending out a rescheduling notice for the other ones fairly soon.
And I don't know how your other working groups have been organized or scheduled, but, some of the recommendations that I would have for this group is, various people bring different information to the table. So maybe you want to have every meeting like a readout of what is happening in tourism and a readout of what is happening in the Appalachians. There might be certain things, and then moving us towards creating a marketing or communications plan.
Yeah.
And we should set our sights to say, like, in X amount of days, we will have this
And-
document that can then be distributed.
You'll be seeing Marianne a lot because she's. The county's contract with her to help us with some of our cannabis marketing. So you'll see. She'll be. They're limited on the federal side, so we're helping the county's stepping in to also help West Company address cannabis as well.
Yeah, and I'd like to talk to West Company about supporting what I'm doing too. See if you can't point me in some directions, because right now, I'm doing it from industries, marketing sponsors, but,
And from a business perspective, I just want to say this, and again, like everything else, it's evolving. Okay? But I have heard that there are some bills in play to get funds out specifically for economic development of the cannabis industry. And, that'd be a game changer. I mean, there's also, from a West Company perspective, there's bills on the table right now for small business development, separate from cannabis because it's connected to federal. But then there's another whole area that they are thinking about economic development specifically.
yeah, it was actually been part of Prop 64 that would help high impacted areas, and we need to step forward and make sure we get those monies.
That's right, and it's specifically for areas like ours, and so we have to make sure that we're designated, and that's one of the things that I want you to.
And so maybe our next one, we'll look at the first Thursday in April. We'll work on kind of an agenda for like next steps of, vision of this working group and kind of what we want to create and put together.
Can we have homework? Because I'm like the really impatient type, and
That would,
in once a month, we're not gonna.
We can also interact with each other.
Right. So can we,
and that's another one. Are you okay with sharing your contact information? Because we have to ask approval ahead of time. Are you okay for all y'all to know each other's contact information? So Cass can send that out so you guys have the list of everyone who's in the working group. I would say homework. Think about what, like, your vision of what you want to see this working group do.
And I'll have some ideas if you give me a meeting, I can.
And you can send it to us in advance, or you can bring them day of.
Some questions, like demographics, number one, who's a demographic? Do we all agree already? I don't know.
Everything's shifting right now in
Yeah.
a way that's unpredictable. And that's the same even with the public, you know, the placing that you see in the marketing. I've been watching this for multiple years now, and everything that was just happening just got thrown up in the air, and not everybody's coming back down. And so it's actually a great opportunity to establish ourselves. Sorry for them, but great for us.
And I think, you know, I mean, as when you told me about what was going on at this particular conference, it just, it forced me to get out of my Mendocino hat and really look at international.
I was right, international.
Can I just share this really quick? Speaking of international, a year from now, this is our goal, maybe. This is a International Travel Expo. And I talked to the guy who, I was just there last week in LA. It's gonna be a year, so it's plenty of time maybe. But everyone was there, Sonoma was there, Napa was there, you know, Tonga was there, Mendocino was not there. And also they said they would give a cannabis tourism our whole pavilion if we wanted it. So they're open. These guys are conservative too, but they're like, whatever.
Makes money. That's what speaks.
Well, that means not just us, but like, you know, Humboldt and anywhere else, but they're open to it, but we have to like.
Something like that should be a partnership with DOT,
With the county.
and with organizations that are working on cannabis. It's gotta be a shared distribution model because no one entity is gonna have all the funds to do what it's
Although
not.
Bishop, California had their own. I don't think it was that expensive. Bishop was there, like, what?
You know, I mean, I don't know, and, you know, it might be worthwhile to find out how they did that, but, you know, these things, because it's not just the price of attendance, it's doing the right kind of event, so that you know how expensive those could be. But I think it's a shared model.
Yeah. So there is I believe, a California agro-tourism organization that's state funded.
That'd be cool.
And there's also private geotourism and nature tourism, and this group could also try to reach out and get cannabis put onto that.
The slow food, you know about slow food, they're part of agritourism,
Yeah.
that's right? So-
Definitely, and I mean that versus everything that you went to, Mendocino should have a presence. And whether it's through collaboration with tourisms or it's, you know, in their own cannabis entity, I think that's yes, there's budget that would have to go into that, but that's something you could do early on, quickly, while policy gets sorted out.
Can I give you homework?
Yeah, that's why, I mean, if we're not here to get busy, then I'm super hyperactive about
So
stuff like
I
that.
think the homework to do is to start gathering information on all the shows that would be worthwhile for us to do. Just an
Great
Excel
idea.
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
that
Can you
has
tell me
all-
can we just come up with a demographic, because this demographic's 40 and up.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so what you do is you
That's
find
the
out-
demographic that has money.
Yes.
Well, no, that is the cannabis demographic. You're gonna find it phasing out as younger generations.
Find all the
'cause it's gonna be legal by
shows.
then.
that it would be worthwhile for Mendocino County to view.
So our demographic is 40 and up?
Well,
And
they
not
do too.
necessarily the demographic, and then find out what demographics those shows are, because it's gonna be a combination of, because you're not gonna go to all of them.
Yeah.
So the next thing that the group has to do is maybe select a couple, and then go after those. So I would say just research.
This one is, and there's one in San, this is the Super Bowl was in LA. They called their Super Bowl 100,000 people in one day.
And
And
maybe
a third of
test-
them were at agents, like travel agents and booking agents for all over the world. So I don't, you know, they're in San Francisco too, they have one in the Bay Area, but that's 40 and up,
Make us a
old
list.
people.
And
Yeah.
I'll network with you.
Kind of
and
give a
I'd
little
love to do
information.
something.
Our
Not
county
all work.
tourism board
Yeah.
actually has surveys that are on marketing plans that are available, and it talks about the demographics. So for our county, there's definitely a 40 and above. It's
Yeah,
where
it's like it's
people come from.
working.
But
Yeah.
this group can look at our county marketing plan.
And that would be good, is to bring that,
Yeah.
because it's, you wanna do stuff that might be not exactly the same thing the tourism board would be, but
It's not just tourism, it's tourism and promotion. We also promote wine, we
That's
promote our
that's
industries.
right. So you wanna, so if you're gonna, you know, join
Yeah.
forces on something, and we want it to be right for.
So I think that's the next one. Bring your ideas. We'll talk about trade shows. Me and Marianne will work on an agenda for the next one. Look for an email from Cass. Some of you guys probably know who that is because you're on the other working groups.
I always get emails.
And we'll send out the group
Those are
list,
buddies.
and then when we get closer, we'll let you know the time, what time we're going to be on that day.
All right.
I appreciate you guys coming out here and braving the weather. So
Yeah,
thank
is everybody
you.
going over to Flo Crana's open house?
Is that now?
Yeah, right now.
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 Is that